This is Elizabeth Mulhane and welcome to this lecture. Just to recap, this lecture follows on from the lecture on mindfulness-based cognitive therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy. I hope you've been able to see throughout the last week how other people's mood, state or energy may easily affect yours, and therefore you're on your way to a better understanding and ability to control your own reactivity to internal and external influences or environmental triggers. This week we're going to have a look at some more examples of the mind in action. So recapping further, cognitive behavioural therapy implies that we are continuously dealing with automatic thoughts that pop up without our control and are based on our core beliefs, which may be either negative or positive, depending on how we've perceived childhood experiences and experiences throughout life, and our current frame of mind or state. Therefore, we aim to focus on creating positive core beliefs to enhance our experience with mindfulness of thoughts. And of course, we can do this through activities such as gratitude or loving kindness meditations, or we can objectively express this to other people in the way we treat them, or we can read through sacred texts or study concepts of knowledge that teach us about morals and ethics. We can use positive affirmations or use mantras also as a way of cultivating positive core beliefs. While most of us think of positive core beliefs such as I will treat others the way I want to be treated, as the way we should be training our brain to think, and of course these are definitely great positive core beliefs, we often neglect our own need to be good to ourselves. So instead of believing I will treat myself the way I should be treating my loved ones, we may be neglecting ourselves, and as a result we can pressure ourselves to hurry up, to get more done. And we often find that we're pushing ourselves harder than we would push our loved ones. So in this lecture, I want to identify time pressure as a possible core belief that may be operating within you. And then we'll move on to discuss a couple of other reasons why our mind may be wandering off. When time pressure is operating within us, we create a core belief that there isn't enough time to get everything done, which is often because we have given ourselves too much to do. So this state is experienced as time pressure. Once time pressure becomes a daily occurrence within our thinking, because we've been pushing ourselves for so long that we're just automatically experiencing thoughts of time pressure, our minds may continually wander off with the endless automatic thoughts that continue to pop up to negatively impact our present moment experience or to steal our present moment experience away from us, because the mind is distracted due to all the things that it needs to get through. And there's various degrees that a person can experience time pressure. And there's plenty of examples where we can find that space to see if this core belief is operating with us, if this is the automatic thoughts that we're having. For example, when we're reading, maybe you've read a paragraph before and then you know you need to reread it because although you were processing the words, you weren't taking them in. And if you reflect on the automatic thoughts, often we find that we were busy thinking about all the other things we need to do. So we reread the paragraph, and sometimes the same thing can happen again. And before we know it, we may even decide to put the reading material down to try to accomplish these things that are distracting us. And this is often occurring because we have put too much on our schedule. Okay, another time when we can experience time pressure is when we're completing seemingly boring tasks that our mind believes we can do on automatic pilot. So these are times when we can face great distraction. For example, when we're brushing our teeth, instead of focusing on each stroke, the mind can feel bored, put us in automatic pilot, and then begin rehearsing future conversations or going through the daily chores, thinking about things that need to be done. And all of these thoughts create a sense of time pressure as the mind tries to fit everything in to any moment that it's feeling bored. And so you can be creating time pressure stress without even realizing it, even if you're not actually overloaded, but because your mind is just running through a list of things that it needs to do, while you should be just brushing your teeth and paying attention to that present moment. And these kind of experiences where the mind takes over can also occur in the shower or whenever we're doing something that our mind believes that we can accomplish on automatic pilot. We can mentally live the whole day out as we imagine rushing through it, rather than just being in the present moment and living one moment at a time by being mentally in the room. So next time you're reading or brushing your teeth or in the shower, try to catch yourself out. Catch yourself in the present moment where you notice that you're simply on automatic pilot, either mentally or physically, and you're really not concentrating on the task at hand. And then ask yourself, did my mind wander because of time pressure, or was it due to feelings of boredom? So you're asking yourself through self-inquiry, what was the trigger that actually caused my mind to wander off? And then after you catch yourself, don't judge yourself. That's really important, because if you start judging yourself, you defeat the purpose of the exercise, which is to gain back present moment experience as a way of slowing life down to an enjoyable pace, which is an experience that the wandering mind has been constantly stealing from you. So we catch ourselves out, and then we just simply return to a focus on our breath and reconnecting with the present moment. If you're trying to read, you try again with only the thought of your breath in the back of your mind. Each time another distraction comes, you just pause, reconnect with the breath and continue reading. If you're brushing your teeth, you focus on mindful brushing. If you're in the shower, you focus on your breath and what you can physically feel. The water running down your hair, down your back, the floor under your feet. Just take in the physical sensations, feel the temperature, reconnect with the enjoyment of that present moment experience. And as you'll see when you begin to practice regularly, it's not as easy as it sounds, but with practice comes improvement. And like any art form, practice and dedication is the key to success. You may like to put some signs on your bathroom wall to help you remember to reconnect to the present moment. These can be powerful mantras. For example, a sign that says, reconnect with your breath, or slow life down, can become a really powerful mantra that will help you remain in the present moment, to live well and to be here now. And now let's look at another way the mind can wander off. Through egotistical modes of thinking, where the core belief is something like, everything is about me, or I need to relate everything to be about me. Another example of how the mind works can be seen when we're engaged in conversations with a relative or a friend or a co-worker. We're listening to the other person and fully engaged in the present moment conversation. However, something they say triggers an automatic thought, or memory, and instead of giving them our full awareness or focus, we find ourselves only half listening to them while we start listening to our internal dialogue or focusing more on our own memories than what they're saying. And then we can also find ourselves just waiting for a pause in their conversation so we can jump in and talk about whatever we were thinking about related to our past or our present or our future, which our ego believes is much more interesting than anything that they have to say. And at its worst, this type of conversing is nothing more than taking turns to talk about ourselves. Sometimes people can get so trapped in this mode of egotistical communicating that whenever you talk to them, they always seem to get back to the same topic, which is about them or their views of the world or their experiences. So instead of really being in the conversation, you find yourself simply listening to them express themselves or reliving their memories. And when people are ignorant of their own behavior in these situations, they can also often cut you off when you're trying to communicate with them. And that can be quite frustrating. And I'm sure we've all experienced this and also experienced doing it to others. And it happens because the wandering mind is owning us through egotistical thought patterns that are generating a constant supply of automatic thoughts and memories related to ourself. It's basically the me inside that wants everything to be about me or related to me. And it's something we can certainly learn to silence, firstly by regular practice of mindfulness of breath and present moment awareness. We use this as a way of resetting our mind so we can refocus on the person in front of us. And we can also challenge those core beliefs and say to ourselves that it's not about me, we're all in this together, and what they are saying is important to me, and I want to show my compassion to them by listening to them, because I believe that that's a very important way to live. So we can challenge our core beliefs when it comes to our egotistical thinking. So we return to our mindfulness of breath as a way of anchoring ourselves in the present moment rather than allowing our mind to wander down memory lane. And we're affirming through mindfulness of thought that we compassionately want to listen to others because that's a good way to live. Memories are something that we're constantly experiencing. Memories can be triggered through conversations or environmental cues, either from within us or in our outer environment. And we can also get lost in memories even when we're alone or watching TV or listening to the radio. And I'm not saying don't think about your past. It's good to reflect sometimes because that's a way to process information and to learn from it, even when it feels bad. In fact, particularly when it feels bad. What I'm saying is that we need to find the balance. We need to make sure that when we're in a conversation with others, we really are staying present and staying in a type of consciousness entanglement with them to share that common human bond rather than allow the ego to take over the conversation. It's really about developing our listening skills through the use of compassion. Okay, so just to recap, core beliefs that can seriously interrupt our present moment experience through creating pop-up automatic thoughts that cause distraction can come from a core belief that we don't have enough time. So we experience our world with a sense of time pressure. And we can use mindfulness to control our breath and our wandering mind to stay on the task. And we can also find ourselves creating a sense of time pressure because our mind is wandering off, thinking about everything it needs to be doing simply because it's bored or on automatic pilot. And I'll just also add, we can also take a look at our schedule and we can see for ourselves if we have in fact given ourselves too many jobs to do, if we're experiencing time pressure. And if we find this is the case, we can rearrange our schedule to a more practical one where we aren't overloading ourselves in order to maintain our well-being. And this is why it's very important to be compassionate with yourself and to see yourself in the same light that you see your loved ones. That is, you certainly wouldn't want to have your loved ones overloaded and feeling time pressure. And so you don't do that to yourself. And we're learning to observe our thinking mind in action. So we can see whether it was a feeling of time pressure that triggered the distraction, or whether it was a feeling of boredom or frustration that triggered the distraction and began creating a sense of time pressure. And by doing this, we get to know ourselves on a much deeper level, which leads to being more understanding with ourselves and our own experience. And once we find this space within ourselves, we can compassionately work towards cultivating our mental environment, and that leads to a better relationship with ourselves and those around us. Okay, so the takeaway message is to be more compassionate with yourself. To self-inquire and observe what triggers are causing your mind to wander. And if it's a belief that there isn't enough time to get things done, then make the necessary changes to your schedule. Or if that time pressure belief is caused through boredom as a way of interference, learn to find the beauty in the present moment as a way of dealing with that boredom. Create a new core belief through present moment experience and consciously acknowledge all the beauty in the world. If you're in your bathroom brushing your teeth and you can't seem to just settle in on the task and you're really struggling with your private practice, don't give up. Okay, if you find yourself feeling really frustrated, then allow your mind to wander just a little. But keep it in the room and in the present moment. For example, by looking at the tap handle and noticing the beauty of the reflections, or just noticing something in your environment that you really never have paid attention to before, and get in touch with the beauty that surrounds you. Look at the geometrical shapes in your room, or the lines or the colours. So what you're doing is just giving your wandering mind a little bit of rope and allowing the mind to roam just a little further, but in a very controlled way. It's like training a puppy, where you're just giving a little bit more lead, a little bit more roam space, but it's still in your control. And when it comes to listening to others in conversation, learn to identify when the ego, with its self-centered core beliefs, is trying to interrupt your ability to listen and communicate well with other people. Okay, so we're becoming self-aware. We're observing the mind, becoming the watcher, noticing why our minds wander off. Was it time pressure? Was it boredom? Was it the ego? And then we use the mindfulness of breath and mindfulness of thought to reconnect with the present moment, which of course includes connecting with your compassion for yourself and others. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thanks for listening.